Receive God's love today and walk in true freedom. Morning prayer. Before the world tells you who to be. Before the noise claims your attention. Before fear rehearses yesterday's failures in your mind. Pause. Breathe. Because this moment, right now, is not an accident. You did not wake up by chance. You were summoned into consciousness again because there is breath in your lungs, purpose in your bones, and love surrounding you that you may not yet fully see, but it has never left you. There is a truth most people rush past every morning. A truth deeper than motivation, stronger than discipline, and more powerful than any external success. You are already loved. Fully. Completely. Without negotiation. Not because of what you achieved yesterday. Not because of how perfect you've been. Not because you earned it. But because God decided, before your first victory and before your first mistake, that you were worth loving. And the moment you receive that truth, not intellectually, but spiritually, everything begins to change. Most people wake up carrying invisible chains. Chains of guilt. Chains of shame. Chains of I'm not enough, I failed too many times, I missed my moment. But freedom does not begin with changing your circumstances. Freedom begins the moment you accept that God's love is not conditional on your performance. Think about that. We live in a world obsessed with earning approval, earning validation, earning rest. But God's love does not operate on human contracts. It is not revoked when you fall. It is not delayed when you struggle. It does not hesitate when you doubt. It meets you where you are. Right here. Right now. In this breath. And when you truly receive that love, something inside you straightens its back. Your spirit lifts its head. Your identity stops begging the world for permission to exist. This is where true freedom begins. Not the freedom to escape responsibility, but the freedom to stand inside responsibility without fear. Not the freedom to avoid struggle, but the freedom to walk through it knowing you are not alone. God's love does not make you weak. It makes you grounded. It roots you so deeply that storms no longer define you. Look at history. Every man or woman who reshaped the world carried an unshakable inner conviction. Abraham Lincoln faced a nation tearing itself apart while battling personal despair, but he stood anchored in a moral vision larger than himself. Thomas Edison failed publicly and repeatedly, but his belief in purpose outpaced his fear of embarrassment. They were not fearless, they were grounded. And grounding comes from knowing who you are connected to. When you receive God's love, you stop chasing worth through exhaustion. You stop measuring yourself by comparisons that were never designed for you. You stop living as if one mistake could disqualify your future. Instead, you begin to move differently. You speak differently to yourself. You choose differently under pressure. You act from identity, not insecurity. This is why mornings matter. Not because productivity starts early, but because alignment starts before distraction. Before you open your phone. Before you absorb the world's expectations. You anchor yourself in truth. And the truth is this. God's love is not distant. It is not theoretical. It is present. It breathes courage into tired hearts. It whispers strength into anxious minds. It reminds you that growth is not about perfection, it's about direction. So this morning, don't ask God to love you more. Instead, ask for the courage to receive what has already been given. Receive peace where there has been tension. Receive forgiveness where there has been regret. Receive clarity where confusion has lived too long. Because when love leads, discipline follows naturally. When identity is secure, action becomes powerful. When faith replaces fear, momentum becomes inevitable. You were not created to live trapped in yesterday. You were created to walk forward, awake, aware, and free. And freedom does not mean the absence of challenge. It means the presence of purpose within it. Stay here. Breathe deeper. Let this truth settle, not as poetry, but as reality. God's love is with you. And from this place, everything else begins to rise. And when you rise from this place, when you allow that love to become the foundation instead of a distant idea, you begin to see your life with new eyes. You realize that fear has been lying to you. Fear told you that you were alone. Fear told you that your past had the final word. Fear told you that you had to be perfect before you could be purposeful. But God's love dissolves fear at the root. Not by shouting at it. Not by fighting it. But by replacing it with truth. Because fear cannot survive where love is fully received. This is why belief matters so deeply. Not surface-level belief. Not borrowed belief. But belief that sinks into the nervous system. Belief that changes how you stand, how you walk, how you decide. When you know you are loved, rejection loses its power. When you know you are guided, uncertainty loses its grip. When you know you are forgiven, the past stops demanding payment. And suddenly, discipline is no longer punishment. It becomes devotion. You don't wake up early because you're forcing yourself. You wake up early because you respect the life entrusted to you. You take action not to prove your worth, but to honor your calling. This is the shift most people never make. They try to build discipline on self-criticism. They try to create consistency through shame. They try to change their lives while secretly believing they're broken. But nothing grows in soil poisoned by self-hatred. God's love is the soil. And from that soil grows clarity. Clarity about who you are becoming. Clarity about what matters, and what no longer deserves your energy. Clarity about the direction of your days. You begin to see that purpose is not something you find far away. Purpose is something you align with. It shows up in how you speak when no one is listening. It shows up in how you treat people who can do nothing for you. It shows up in how you respond when life does not go according to plan. Purpose is not loud. But it is steady. And when love is your foundation, purpose stops feeling heavy. It feels inevitable. There will still be resistance. There will still be mornings when motivation feels thin and the path feels long. But resilience is born in those moments. Not the kind of resilience that clenches its jaw and pretends everything is fine. But the kind that bends, learns, adapts, and rises wiser. God's love does not promise an easy road. It promises a meaningful one. And meaning gives pain direction. Think of every great transformation, personal or historical. It was never comfort that changed the world. It was conviction. Henry Ford was mocked for believing in mass production. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Their breakthroughs were not accidents. They were acts of faith expressed through relentless action. Faith is not passive. Faith moves. It takes one step before the whole staircase is visible. It shows up on days when results are invisible. It trusts that obedience today compounds into freedom tomorrow. And this morning, right now, you are being invited into that movement. Not tomorrow. Not when everything feels perfect. Now. You don't need to have every answer. You don't need to feel fearless. You just need to stay connected. Connected to gratitude, for breath, for growth, for the lessons hidden inside struggle. Connected to humility, knowing you are guided, not self-made. Connected to learning, remaining teachable even when you've been wounded. Because freedom is not static. It is lived. Daily. Moment by moment. And the more you walk in it, the more natural it becomes. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop surviving. You start building. You stop asking, what if I fail? And you start asking, who am I becoming? Let that question echo. Because when you walk in God's love, you are not walking blindly. You are walking forward, with strength, with clarity, with purpose. And this morning is not just another day. It is a continuation of your becoming. And becoming is not loud. It does not announce itself with fireworks or instant results. Becoming happens quietly, in decisions no one applauds, in habits no one sees, in moments when you choose faith over fear without an audience. This is where true freedom matures. Because freedom is not the absence of limits, it is the mastery of self within them. It is the ability to choose patience when anger is easier. Consistency when quitting would feel justified. Help when circumstances argue otherwise. God's love gives you that power of choice. Without it, people become reactive. They let emotions drive direction. They let pain decide personality. They let the past narrate the future. But with love as your anchor, you stop outsourcing your identity to your experiences. You understand something deeper. Life is not happening to you, it is shaping through you. Every delay is refining discernment. Every setback is teaching strategy. Every closed door is protecting something you cannot yet see. This is where gratitude becomes strength. Not forced positivity. Not denial. But grounded appreciation. Gratitude shifts your nervous system out of survival and into trust. It widens your perspective. It reminds you that even unfinished chapters carry wisdom. And wisdom changes how you move. You stop chasing every opportunity. You start choosing aligned ones. You stop saying yes to distractions. You start saying no with peace. Because clarity is a form of courage. It takes courage to walk your path when it looks slower than others. It takes courage to stay disciplined when shortcuts are celebrated. It takes courage to forgive when resentment feels justified. But courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to obey truth despite it. And obedience builds momentum. Small actions done consistently reshape identity. Identity reshapes behavior. Behavior reshapes destiny. This is the invisible architecture of success. Not hype. Not shortcuts. Not overnight miracles. But alignment. Day after day. You begin to realize that your mind is a garden. What you allow to grow there determines what you harvest. If you plant fear, you harvest hesitation. If you plant resentment, you harvest stagnation. But when you plant truth, when you water it with prayer, discipline, and action, you harvest freedom. And freedom feels like this. Waking up without dread. Making decisions without self-betrayal. Moving forward without needing everyone's approval. It feels like inner permission. Permission to grow at your own pace. Permission to evolve beyond old labels. Permission to live from conviction instead of comparison. This is why learning never stops. Every experience, good or painful, is feedback. Every challenge is instruction in disguise. Those who grow resent reality. Those who learn from it reshape it. And you are being shaped. Right now. Every breath you take in awareness strengthens your ability to respond instead of react. Every moment of stillness sharpens your intuition. Every time you return to love, you reinforce your foundation. Because adaptability is not compromise, it is intelligence. It is knowing when to persist and when to pivot. When to speak and when to listen. When to push and when to rest. Even rest becomes sacred when it is intentional. Rest is not quitting. Rest is preparation. The greatest leaders understood this. They withdrew to reflect so they could return with clarity. They protected their inner world so their outer work could remain clean. You are allowed to do the same. You are allowed to slow down without guilt. To say no without explanation. To protect your energy like it matters, because it does. God's love is not asking you to exhaust yourself. It is inviting you to steward yourself. To treat your body as an instrument. Your mind as a temple. Your time as a gift. And when you live that way, life responds differently. Opportunities align. Relationships deepen. Peace becomes familiar. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become rooted. And a rooted person cannot be shaken easily. Stay rooted. Because what is being built in you this morning is not temporary motivation. It is a way of walking. A way of choosing. A way of living free.